the 88th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the last week of April 2012. This episode is titled Mini Drive. CloudFocus Weekly is sponsored by Arkus, your cloud computing experts, and makers of The Permissioner. Joining me with a sour look on his face today, wrapping his way into the studio here, is Justin Elstein.
Wow.
Justin, how are you doing?
Wow.
You did a lot there,
You just did a lot. A lot of inside stuff you just did.
Well, that's
for those who got it, good for you.
Yeah, for those who didn't, Justin will wrap it later.
More. Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to keep going.
I'm the one who said I would not do that.
All right. So the inside joke is people were posting on our wall today on Facebook saying the CloudFocus podcast needed us to rap.
Turn our banter into rapping.
Yes, battle rapping.
Yeah, seriously.
It's an idea. It's not a good one, but it's an idea. All right, well, we have an agenda today. Speaking of really good ideas, we have the blog post of the week, which is all about the many who.
We love this feature.
Salesforce.
Or at least talking about it.
Yeah, we know. We love what this feature could be.
We love talking about this feature.
We'll talk about that. And we have the real, final, and really released, much talked about, much hallelujah Google Drive. And we'll talk about that. It was released yesterday. And then we have a blog post by a fellow Salesforce MVP, as yourself, and elite.
You're not allowed to use that term, fellow. I can use the term fellow.
I'm saying your fellow,
my
a peer
fellow,
of yours,
Matthew Lamb.
Matthew wrote a blog post about chatter files better than for attaching records. Yeah?
Yes, at SFDC Matt.
Yes, we will talk about that. Wow, that's a plug for him already.
Yeah, why not?
1 million followers. He just got 1 million followers.
No,
just for that.
I don't think so.
And then we'll make our CloudFocus picks of the week at the end. I have to figure mine out. We'll do that. I have them. I just have to figure out which one of the many I'm going to pick.
Oh, you're such a show-off.
Yes. All right. So let's get started with a little talk about our blog post quickly, which was called Salesforce Here's a Who.
Here's a many who.
Oh, here's a many who. Yeah, that's better.
That is better.
I just haven't published it yet, so I haven't.
I read it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And basically, it's a quick review of the pilot of the many who.
Right.
Which is.
Shall we recap for those who haven't been listening for the last couple months?
Sure.
You want to recap, or
No,
would you like me to?
You go.
I go. I go now? Okay. No, you go now.
I go escargot slowly.
Oh, you're rapping.
So good.
Oh, man.
So good.
All right.
Hurt.
So we at Arkus have been in the Many Who pilot for spring.
Correct.
Spring 12 edition of Salesforce.
Go on.
Which, without using the code word Many Who, essentially allows you to associate one task to more than one contact. The contact being the who. The many being the many, so many who. Useful for, or many times asked for over the years. I want to be able to relate an activity to more than one person because they sometimes relate to more than one person. I don't want to dupe them. I don't want to create multiples of them. I want it to be one task, and I want it to be associated to many people. So in spring, they released it as part of a pilot. Arkus was lucky enough to be part of that pilot, and we've been now experiencing it for the last couple of months. So the partner that shall remain nameless wrote a blog post reviewing it since he's been using it for a couple months, and he actually went ahead and played around with a couple scenarios that he hadn't really thought of using it for, and seeing how well it worked for those scenarios. And I think he found a few shortcomings that are worth mentioning more than the bonuses. I mean, you get the bonuses, you get the plus, right?
Right.
You add a task, and you can add multiple people, and it shows up in all the different places, and that's fantastic. I think where we saw some of the downfalls or missing pieces was
in the blog post.
Was in the blog post.
No, meaning that you need to go to blog.com to read it.
Sure. I was going to say my one that I thought was missing, that I was sort of, I hadn't realized it was missing, was it didn't work with leads. It's like, why does this work with contacts but not leads? It's sort of weird. They're who's. There's only two who's. It's contact or lead. So why does this work with one but not the other?
I didn't know that was a missing
Me neither.
feature.
I went to look as he was writing the post, or I had asked him to look, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it doesn't work for leads." I'm gonna mention that.
Yeah.
So there's one little tidbit of information. You can go to the blog post at blog.arkusinc.com and read it for yourselves.
It should be live relatively soon.
As you're listening to this.
Yeah, I said that last week.
Maybe after.
I said that last week, and so
it's ready to go.
If you were looking for the how to publish your app on the App Exchange blog post,
it's there now,
and you were listening to the blog post, and we said it was available, and you went to the blog.arkusinc.com, and it wasn't available, that's Justin's fault.
That is not Justin's fault.
All right. Next up is really, I mentioned this a couple months ago. I was very excited about it. You gave me a ho-hum. I feel like this is the many, many scenarios in our lives, you and my lives together in our relationship, that I say something is very cool. You say ho-hum. Months later, you come back to me and go, you know what's really cool? That thing that you said was really cool like 6 months ago.
I haven't come back to you on this yet, have I?
It's been out for a day.
Yeah.
You haven't even installed it.
This is a 24-hour news cycle, my friend.
That's right.
So let's come on.
So anyway, as we've been talking about for a while, and as we have made many picks of Dropbox and Box.net and iCloud, there's been a wave of applications or companies offering...
Did you just mention Google Wave subliminally?
Wow. I didn't, but now maybe I did. By the way, for you Wave users, get off because you got 5 more days.
5 days to migrate.
5 days to get off the...
We recommend Google Docs.
Yep. So... Anyway, there's been many, it started with, Dropbox. The idea being, I want to have cloud storage, but I want to not just have my files in the cloud. I want to be able to sync them down to my local drive as well. So we currently use Jungle Disk, and I love it, and it does this. It has folders and files, and you drag them in, and it syncs, and anybody can use them, and it's both, you can access them on the web, but you can usually just get to them. So Dropbox is an example.
Well, you can't just get to them. You could. They're files. They're documents.
Right, but you can just
to them and you can edit them.
Not in Jungle Disk and not in Dropbox. No, you can't. You can't edit them on the web.
Well, you can't edit them on the web, but they're files. You can edit them.
You could go to them, download them, and edit them on your machine.
But you're not downloading them. You're not downloading the file from.
Oh yes,
from
you can. I'm saying. All right, we're crossing swords here. I said you can get to them on the web. You can't edit them on the web.
That's through the web interface.
Yes.
I don't use Jungle Disk in that way. It mounts a drive and I navigate.
In some ways, why would you ever get to it that way?
I never would.
I never do. They always have. Most of them have interfaces for mobile devices. So Dropbox, Jungle Disk. You can browse.
I enjoy the Jungle Disk mobile application. I oftentimes go look at our spreadsheets.
Yep.
On my iPhone.
Yep.
I don't know why, but I do. I find it interesting.
Yeah. So, anyway, and there's always been this basically hovering mass, which is Google saying with this thing called the G Drive, which has been rumored for many, many years. And a lot of the, the hubbub in the media has been, well, when Google comes out with this thing, it will squash all the others. Now, a couple of things have happened in the last couple of days which are interesting that you might not be aware of. One is Microsoft released their SkyDrive for Macs.
Oh.
Okay, so
I knew of SkyDrive.
Yep.
I did not even know it didn't work for Macs because I never went to go use it.
Well, they now have a SkyDrive for Mac version, and they're offering 7 gigabytes of data for free.
That's a nice amount.
Right, I think Dropbox is 2.5 something. There are definitely like different ones. In fact, there's a great chart on Gizmodo that lists them out and what each one does.
Is that an infographic?
No, it's sort of a chart. Like, here's what this one does, this one does.
I wish it was an infographic.
It's not an infographic.
That's too bad because I like infographics.
You should rap about that. So anyway, so it was released yesterday, and with really not much fanfare. I mean, they do their typical release, which is they post a new drive.google.com. They have a cool video, which this is one of the worst videos ever because it's like things floating around, but they don't actually show you what it does. Because what it does is it gives you a folder on your desktop that you have your folders in. You have your files in, but you can access your files both from your desktop and through the web, and it syncs, and you can access it from mobile. what's nice is, and they have now made this, a couple things that are coming out about it. One is you can access file types that you don't even have to have the application for. So PSD files.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have Photoshop to see the PSD file on Google,
web.
On the web, which is massive because that allows people to look at
it. Opens it in like a picture viewer in Google Docs or something
like that. Yeah.
Now you obviously can't open that PSD file if you were to go to the G drive that's mounted on your desktop and double click that file. It won't open locally in a app.
I don't. Well, in my computer,
well,
you
have Photoshop, but I don't.
Right. Well, that'll be a use case. We'll test that. So, but I think what Google is, so it's 5 gigs. You can upgrade to like 25 gigs or whatever.
So you've used it a little bit.
I installed it about. I opted into the beta yesterday. I got the invite now, like an hour ago. I downloaded it, installed it for my personal Gmail because our Google Apps hasn't been enabled yet.
Right.
So I did for my personal Gmail just to try it, just to see. I literally played with it for 5 minutes. But I know some things about it. One is you have one-click sharing, so you can right-click on a file and then just it'll give you an URL and you can place that URL into anywhere you want and it's automatically shared instantly. So for big files, there's no more worrying about sending
Our Jungle
big files.
Disk does that.
Our Jungle Disk does it, but not very well.
It does it all right.
It creates a web thing. It doesn't do as well as this. This is like right on your desktop. Right click, give me a file.
I feel like my Jungle Disk does that.
Well, your Jungle Disk doesn't.
I beg to differ.
Try it out.
I'm gonna as you keep going.
Yeah. So the space is good. The syncing is good. It's very fast. It does all of what you would expect to happen. All your collections. So if you have collections in Google Docs, they become folders on your desktop. Yeah, are you testing the thing that I told you wasn't going?
Yeah, I right-clicked. I said share with Jungle Disk.
Yeah, what's happening now?
I don't know. I think it's trying to open something.
Okay, so it's not.
I'm not really sure, actually.
It opened up a browser. Okay.
Actually, it didn't open a browser. It didn't open anything.
Oh, good.
I don't know
so
why. I don't know what it's doing.
So it works just the way you thought it was working.
I've done this before. I don't know why it's not working now.
So
I don't know what. I honestly don't even know what it's doing. It's doing something. Something's happening.
People are listening to you talk about something's happening on your browser.
Actually, nothing's happening. It's kind of weird.
So anyway, back to Google Drive. It's a big deal because it is Google who owns all these businesses and it's basically included in your Google Apps. It's included in your Gmail. They up Gmail to 10 gigabytes now. It basically takes over Docs. So
wasn't my Gmail more than
7 point something?
I thought it was like 25. Or that's my Google Apps account.
That's your Google Apps account, yes. Your Gmail was 7.7 something.
Can I ask you some questions about Google Drive?
Sure.
Because I just don't know the answers.
If the 5 minutes I played with it, I know more about Jungle Disk than you do, so maybe I know more about Jungle Disk.
So can I create like subfolders in my Google Drive that are shared with other users? So like Dropbox, you can have like shared folders and anything in the folder is shared across, right? I'm sure you've done that with people before.
So if I create a folder, you're talking about on the desktop because you can create a collection and share the collection.
Sure.
Yes. So that you can do on the web. Always would be able to. So what is different about
creating so my G Drive, but the G Drive's different than creating a collection in Google Apps.
No. So a collection in Google Apps turns into a folder on your desktop.
And it can be shared. So if someone else has a Google Drive account, they go into their desktop G Drive, and there's a folder sitting there that's been shared with them. With
just
all
like
the files
Dropbox.
in it.
Yeah, so that's
just
no
like
different
Dropbox.
than Dropbox.
Got it.
Yep.
You mentioned like the different. You were talking about like Jungle Disk and Dropbox. Like they have the web interface, but you couldn't edit on the web. So this has the ability to have Google Docs in the G Drive.
So yeah, it's a combination of Google Docs and Google Drive. So and I think that's where it's powerful.
So when I'm sitting on my desktop in my G Drive, there's like pointers to Google documents that I can click, open, it opens in the browser, start editing.
That's correct.
But if there's a Word doc, that's not editable in Google Docs.
No, it's viewable in Google Docs. Right. You go into Google Docs, you'll view it, and you can collaborate on it. You can do comments. So I posted a picture into one, and then it gives you the tools, so you can do file, edit, create, whatever. But you can also do comments. So whereas in Jungle Disk, if there's a file, a JPEG sitting on, or even in Dropbox, there's a JPEG sitting in your Dropbox, and you and I want to collaborate on it, that's it. Like, we could send each other emails. We can't really go to a web-based version of it and collaborate around it.
Right. You can just download it.
Yeah, but that's not
it.
collaboration.
That's not,
right. So I think that's where I think this becomes big win. Plus, they're opening up APIs for it, so there's going to be APIs available. So I start to think about, oh, wait, I could grab files from a place, I don't know where I store files, Chatter files. I could have them go into Google Docs, and I could have them show up on my desktop. I mean, there could be some interesting stuff that happens with this. Again, Dropbox owns this space right now, pretty much. They had a free version. It's 2 gigs to start. But when you sort of get the 5 gigabytes works with Google Docs, which I think is the thing that makes it more powerful, is that I can do both. I can both have that sort of desktop version of stuff, but I can also go collaborate on stuff. And as we have become huge users of Google Docs recently, right? I mean, your love for Google Docs.
I love Google Docs. Right. I love it. So what was all this hubbub about their terms of service that came out yesterday? There was a lot of some conversations yesterday on Twitter that we were having with Zach and with Nick and Roger, and just throwing people's names out there who may or may not listen to the podcast. Yep. Some I know do. Yep. Some I'm not sure.
I think Zach does.
I know Zach does. He sent a little snippet to us about the terms of service. So you're saying that this was sort of taken slightly out of context?
If you look at the bottom of this article, scroll all the way down. Updated
at 8 p.m. To clarify, the first sentence of the Google term states. So let's read the first. Your content in our services. When you upload or otherwise submit content to our services, you give Google and those we work with a worldwide license to use, host, store, reproduce, modify, create derivative works, such as those resulting from translations, adaptations, blah, 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 blah. Communicate, publish, publicly perform, publicly display, and distribute such content. So now let's read the update. To clarify that first sentence, the Google terms state, you retain ownership of any intellectual property rights that you hold on the content. In short, what belongs to you stays yours. For more on this topic, read something else. It's weird because it reads differently than what that little update states.
Right. And
it reads like, once you put this file on our servers, we can do whatever we want with it. And that's that.
But I guess there's 2 points of looking at this. One is from the lawyer side of the hundreds of thousands of lawyers that Google has, I don't know, maybe 10. They always are going to make things because basically what they're saying is, listen, if you're going to put this file onto our servers, we have to have the ability to move it physically and sync it. And so what they usually write it is to say, okay, we can do anything we want with it, sync it across and do this. And then the language gets bigger. This happened to Dropbox. If you look back a year, Dropbox had the same problem. It turned out that somewhere deep in things it said that Dropbox files were owned by Dropbox or whatever. Everybody freaks out. Someone comes up, updates the statement saying, no, it's yours, but we have to in our terms of service have the ability to move it around because that's what we do.
It's weird that like some of the words that are in there, like, you give Google a worldwide license to use, to publicly perform, to publicly display. Like, these are like weird words. Like, they make you quiver a little bit. It's like, ooh.
They make you quiver.
Well, it's like, ooh, shiver. You're gonna take my stuff and publicly display it. Like, ooh, that's not what I want you to do with it. Like, maybe they mean display it to you in a public place, but like a web browser. But it gives me a little shivers down my spine. Like, ooh, you're gonna take my doc that has my financial Excel spreadsheet that's near and dear to me that I've been keeping my finances in and my budget, and I want to store it in a place where I know I can get to it. So, I'll put it on my G drive. But Google has the right to publicly display this anywhere they want. It's like this weird feeling, Yeah.
I don't care.
I hope that there's no,
Here's the thing. You want my budget? I mean, I'm not going to make it public. I'm not going to share it with the world. But I don't know. I've lost that. Oh, that's a song, not a rap. I've lost that loving feeling for privacy. I don't care anymore. I really don't. Like, I feel like any privacy. It's kind of the way I feel about germs. If you think that you're not interacting with germs in your day-to-day existence, then you're just ignoring the facts.
Right.
So if you think that you have any privacy, then you're just ignoring the facts.
That comment was directed directly at Roger.
At Roger Mitchell. Yeah, the same thing with privacy. If you really think that you have any privacy, you're ignoring the reality of the fact that you have chosen 100 times in the last probably month to give up your privacy. You have signed into to places that tell you that they're going to take your privacy. You have given up personal information. You have plastered into files. You've sent it over to your mortgage broker. You've done so many things over and over again to give up your privacy that really privacy is not, it doesn't exist like it used to exist.
Right.
We have to redefine what privacy means. And so in some ways I'm like, I'm not going to fight it. There is certain information that might be uncomfortable if you were to find out, like, oh, you found out how much I earn, or how much I paid for my MacBook, or how much I'm going to spend on...
Usually financial.
Well, drinking, fine. It's usually uncomfortable information. But it's not, to me, it's not game-changing. It's like, fine, okay, everybody knows I make $1.50 an hour, whatever. I mean, $1.50,
right.
not $150.
Like $1.50.
That's right. I don't
That's
know.
because Arkus spends all its money sponsoring this podcast.
That's right. This podcast costs about $5,000 a day.
Let me ask you a question about Google Docs, and I love Google Docs.
About Google Docs or Google Drive?
Both. Okay. I'm kind of talking about Google. It's
called,
now hard to.
It's called Docs and Drive now.
Yeah, it's hard to. It's hard to now decouple them. Now that you think about Google Docs are stored in your Google Drive, right? Like you can access them from your Google Drive. I have a friend of mine. He's writing a book.
Okay.
And I know he's not writing it.
Is your friend thinking about suicide as well?
No, I don't get it. I don't even get the comment.
Oh, because it's usually I have a friend.
Oh, no. This is a real person.
Who's having an affair.
No.
I don't know what to do about that.
This is a real person who's really writing a book.
His name is Bustin.
Yes.
Bustin Nettlestein.
Right. No, real friend,
Yep.
not imaginary, really writing a book. Real book.
Okay.
Couple 100 pages in already.
Staying positive.
Okay. Positive mental outlook. No. And I doubt he's writing it in Google Docs. I'm sure he's writing it in like Microsoft Word on his desktop. Would you, if you were embarking on like writing something like that, where now there's been a lot of time invested in it and he's got a couple 100 pages, would you write that in a Google Doc, thinking like I don't even think about, we have so much important stuff in Google Docs. I don't even think about like, what if that just disappeared one day? Like if Google messed up, right? We have all this stuff in Salesforce, and I guess it's sort of antithetical to the cloud, buying into the cloud. But
right.
would you like write a book on Google Docs, or would you be like, oh, I'm gonna write maybe I'll write it because I like to compose things in Google Docs, but I'm gonna download it every so often and store it like in a bunch of different.
Well, I think you're asking two different questions. Are you asking, would I use a tool that allowed me to?
It's more a philosophical
collaborate in. Well, but you're asking me a practical question. If I were to have something extremely important anywhere, it doesn't matter where it is, would I consider that I needed to back it up? The answer is yes. The more important it is, the more you have to back it up, and the more ways you got to back it up. So the question is, do you consider Google Doc backed up by itself?
Right.
I think that's
the
not
sort
philosophical.
Of,
that's
well,
like,
yeah. I guess then, do you consider, like, if I put something in Google Docs, should I consider it backed up?
Yeah.
Because what am I going to do? Download this thing every time I change it? That's like every time I change something in Google Docs, it saves.
I guess the question is, you put something on your desktop. Do you consider it backed up?
No.
Well, then, do you consider something in Docs more backed up than on your desktop?
I do.
There you go. There's my answer. I'd say I would feel more happy putting things in Google Docs than not. Like having something on my desktop that could be overwritten and corrupted and whatever. Another part of Google Drive is they're having versioning. They're actually going to build versioning in. So as documents get changed, they're going to keep different versions. So in some ways, unless you're using, OS X 10 or 12 or whatever, not 10, whatever, 10 point whatever, that has versioning built in, or you're using Time Machine or Crash Plan or one of these other millions of things, like, you have to be always thinking about how important is it to me and what's my plan if this were to go away. So if Google were to go away, it's a consideration. Is it a big one? I don't know. Something like a. So for me, what I would say is, if I were writing a book and it was something so important in Google Docs, something with like Google Drive now, I would just turn my little Crash Plan and I'd say back up that as well. So then Google has a copy, and then I would be sweeping up a copy nightly to CrashPlan. And I'd turn Time Machine on and say, back that up as well. So then I have a local copy on my Time Machine at home. I got another copy up in CrashPlan, and then Google Docs has his copy. And then I feel good. I used to do that with Mobile Me. I used to back up my Mobile Me because I almost lost it like twice, and I had all my files there, like files from 1996. And I almost lost it once, and so I backed it up. I made a hard copy of the whole thing. It's just a drive, or it's basically it's a sparse bundle, whatever. And I'd back it up to my Drobo locally. So if Mobile Me were to go away, I knew I had a copy. So I think that's with anything, but you can't look at any service and say, even Salesforce. Salesforce has a weekly export that you should do if you're going to, what's your value? What's the value of your data? What will you do without it? Back it up. So that's a cool job. I'm very excited. I'm excited to try it out more today.
Me too. I'm excited to try it. I haven't even signed up for the beta though. I'm excited more for when Arkus gets
I feel sorry for. I think that it's now time for Dropbox and for Jungle Disk is certainly one of the ones that, because Jungle Disk did that one thing that we wanted it to do that now this does, which is it syncs all sorts of files and it makes it available in a file system format. Now this thing does it, and it comes free. And if it doesn't come free, if I need more space, I'll just go purchase it from Google, which is already connected to my account. I can control access. I think that's easier. Anyway,
all right,
moving on,
moving right along. Let's talk about Matt's blog post real quick. So, fellow MVP and guest author on the Salesforce community blog wrote a post entitled "Chatter Files: A Better Option for Attaching Files to Records." And I couldn't agree with him more. He's got this right on. As most of you Salesforce users know at this point, if you were to attach a file to the Chatter feed on a specific record, the file gets sort of pointed to in the notes and attachments section.
I don't think a lot of people know this.
Well, now they do.
They should know this.
I actually think it should. I believe Salesforce should actually rename it attachments and just do away with notes, because that's what Chatter is. I was at a new client yesterday, and I was showing them Chatter, and I said, just think about it as notes, because they were having a hard time getting their head around it. I'm like, you put notes on accounts and on opportunities. Like, you have a column in your spreadsheet, and it's got like a date, like notes,
it's
and
usually,
it's got
usually
a date,
one field.
Yeah, it's one cell with a date dash a note, and then above it is another date dash another note. I'm like, think of it as that.
Can you report on Chatter notes?
Can you report on notes?
No, but you can add. This is a consideration. I go down that path with my clients, who are your clients as well, and it's one of the things. Well, then I can report on it, right? I'm like, no.
Well, can you report on notes?
No. And
so then what's the difference?
No, that's why I say put into activity history
or install compliance for Chatter, and then you can report it until your heart's content. Anyway, so Matt writes this post about how, instead of uploading a file using the standard attach files to the notes and attachment section, it's a much better idea to just load it into the Chatter feed,
right?
Because it's in Chatter, so now it's more collaborative. People can comment on the file itself. Right. B, it makes its way into the notes and attachments section anyway. It breaks itself out there, right? You have version control over these documents. So now you can go to the document, upload a new version, and that gets reflected as part of it. And you can also deliver it. You can actually, using the file sharing capabilities of Chatter Files, you can send a link out to the file to he used an opportunity in this example. You can send it out to your customer.
Right.
On top of all that, there's a file size limitation to what you can upload in the notes and attachment section. I believe it's 5 megabytes as opposed to 2 gigabytes in Chatter. So, I mean, there's literally no reason not to use the Chatter feed for uploading files on a record, as opposed, you should absolutely be doing that if you're not doing it already.
Except for if you're not using Chatter.
If you're not using Chatter, okay, maybe this is a reason to use Chatter.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think
it's a great topic for a blog post.
It is. It's a great use of it, and I think people need to go and sort of get into, what chatter files can do, because it's clearly the future. And this is where I come back to my "what are you thinking, Salesforce" moment, which is we gotta consolidate some of this stuff. Again, notes, attachments, documents, chatter files, content. Stop.
You didn't even mention documents.
Yeah, documents. Oh yeah, that other thing that you need to do and have and whatever. It's like I need it to stop. I need that. I need the madness to stop. Get rid of documents, get rid of content, move it into files, and call it a day. I agree. Notes should become a new object called Notes. It should be a parent-child off of whatever it's on, and it should be reportable. And they should have a migration tool that takes all your notes and builds them into this new object, and you're done. And then that's it. And then and attachments is anything that's in, reflected in the chatter, and you're done. It would be nice. It would be nice also if they made the integration. I mean, I know the integration with Google Docs is okay. It's not great.
It's interesting. Cases are done really well. The case object, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty. Cases are done in that way. Cases have a related list called attachments.
Right.
No notes. Then they have case comments, right? Which are notes. It's done perfectly. And you can have workflows off of case comments. And you can have, all sorts of fun stuff. Triggers on case comments. I don't know why all the objects aren't like that. I don't know why cases is special in that way. But it is. So, anyway, good blog post, Matt.
Yeah, so it's on the it's actually on blog.salesforce.com. Right after you go to blog.arkusinc.com.
It's in the community blog. So, if you go to blogs.salesforce.com/community, you will get there faster.
So just a note for next week.
Oh yeah.
A little planning note.
Yeah,
I'm headed to a conference early in the week, so I think I'll probably be coming back and reporting on what I learned at that conference.
Okay.
Going to Integration
I
World.
will not be there.
You're not going.
No.
You're actually moving.
They've banned me.
Yes.
Yes, I'm moving. I will be doing that arduous task.
So next week we should really dig into Summer 12. Because Summer 12 has been, the actual release notes have been released, not just the preview sort of whatever release. I've read them. I'm going to reread them. Because as I like to do.
Well, if you look at our blog calendar, next week is the Summer 12 reaction blog post.
By me.
Oh,
yeah, because you would never give up that part.
No, I don't give that one up.
All right. So next week, I want to say, next week's going to be an all Summer 12. So tune in for next week.
It's going to be a bonanza.
It's going to be a bonanza. Speaking of bonanzas, let's get to our CloudFocus App Pick of the Week.
Let's do it. Am I going first as usual?
Chicka, what?
So since we've been talking about Google Drive and G Drive and Google Docs, I figured I'd pick my favorite mobile app for accessing Google Docs, which is an app called GoDocs, all one word, for the iOS platform by a company called Lightroom.
We really need to get some Android in here because, man, we ignore Android so badly.
We don't have Android.
I know.
None of us have it. How am I supposed to pick something?
We need to get something. We need to figure that out.
Well, maybe we'll get a tablet. Maybe we'll get one of those phones that are the size of tablets.
Maybe we should get...
or maybe we'll get one of the tablets that are the size of phones.
Maybe we should get all of our picks and put them in a Sweet 16 and have them face off against each other. It's some sort of really bad idea. Still,
that was a good idea.
Yeah, all right. What was the one from last week that you've already forgotten?
I don't know. I forgot it. That was the one from last week.
No, that was from like 3 weeks ago. There was one from last week that you forgot. You had this great idea. We should do that. And then you forgot it.
No, wasn't that it?
No.
That wasn't it.
Keep going.
That wasn't it.
You forgot what you forgot.
I did.
Isn't that remembering?
No, that's the opposite of remembering.
All right, go on.
Someone should have written that down.
Yep.
Anyway, GoDocs. It's just a really nice native application on the iPad or iPhone. It's universal, so download once, it goes to both places. It's $4.99, and it allows you to view all your Google Docs in a really nice, easy, iOS way. You can get to folders, docs, you can edit them. Really nice, just app for getting to Google Docs, and I love Google Docs, so I like to figure out the best ways I can get to all of them, because that's where a lot of important information is for myself and for our company. We use it, every single moment of every day.
I could do, and how much is it?
It is $4.99, but you get it on both the iPhone and the iPad.
I like that.
At the same, it's one of those universals, and it's a different, it's the iPad like form, that.
It's universal.
It's universal.
So what you're trying to say is it's universal.
What I'm trying to say is it'll work on both.
All right.
And it works well on both. So get it. It's $4.99, which is
a little bit
not free.
I mean, I have bought apps that I've used once that are much more than that, but I might try it.
Me too.
Alrighty. So Go Docs by iOS by Lightroom.
That's right.
All right, I'm gonna pick. I have a double pick. So I was reading my Zeit the other day, and I love my Zeit, and I came across an article about how to use Google Plus. So it's all Google episode, and I was like, oh, I'm interested in reading more about Google Plus and what Google Plus can do. And it was a review of a book called What the Plus? Google Plus for the Rest of Us.
What the what?
What the Plus? Right, a little bit on that. But it's by Guy Kawasaki, who's a very famous Mac evangelist from way back when. Now, I guess, entrepreneur. I don't know what he does. Anyway, so because I'm apt to do this, I go down paths. So I start reading one thing, then I jump to the website, then I jump to the Amazon page, then I bought it.
That's what the internet is about.
It's great.
Friend.
Then I downloaded the Kindle book. It was 99 cents. And I read it. And it's a quick little 90-page whatever about using Google Plus.
Did you do this like late last week? Is that why I got a little chatter post telling me not to neglect our Google Plus accounts?
Probably. So that's the pick one. So What the Plus, a 99-cent ebook by Guy Kawasaki. I think it's Kawasaki, how to pronounce it. But what one of the things I found in that was in Google Plus, one of the things you can do that, in Facebook they have that timeline. And in Google Plus, they have sort of the same thing. We have a picture and we have a bunch of pictures behind it. But you can break up like 4 or 5 pictures. So, and he said, but it's like, if you want to get artistic, you can break them in so it's one picture broken up across 5. Kind of hard to do unless you use G Plus Pick, which is at gpluspick.com. And I will show you, if you go to my profile, take a look. So you can take a picture and you upload it to this website, and it breaks it up into 5 different pictures and makes you use it as your sort of background.
What does mine look like?
I have no idea.
Go to it.
I do not care to.
Anyway. I just don't. I gotta be honest. I don't use Google Plus at all. I just don't care. No. It means nothing to me. What's mine?
Yours is nothing.
What is that?
It's whatever it came with, which is the green Google.
I gotta say, I disapprove of your pick this week.
Why?
It's lame. Who cares?
It's fun.
It's not that fun. I mean, all right. So it took one picture and broke it into 5.
Right, and makes it into things, and then you just throw them in there, so you can make a background that's kind of broken into 5. Kind of fun. It's a free website.
I guess my negativity is coming from the fact that I just don't care about Google Plus. I just don't care.
But that's for you. I'm talking to people who actually want to use Google Plus.
Who wants to use Google Plus, really? You just read this book. Is it like
no,
did it uncover all these like things like, oh, Google Plus is the greatest?
It uncovered that Google Plus, while it's being slammed a lot in the media, has the best of Twitter and the best of Facebook and none of the crap. That it is really the great combination between the two. And he doesn't have
the people, though.
He does.
That's the thing.
It's getting the people, but he gives this sort of breakdown of the different features, and I think it's a fair point to say that Google is 100% behind it. Hey, listen, when Chatter was released, we're all like, who's going to use Chatter? Well, they've been behind it for 2 years, and now it's a mainstay. Google Plus is only going to get better. They're investing all of their time and energy into it. It's becoming their thing, and it does. It has more features and it is better than both Twitter and Facebook in a lot of ways because it combines that sort of personal but social conversation, but controlling that Facebook does kind of okay, but Twitter does okay, but Twitter's conversation is really bad because it doesn't really feel like a conversation. It's all these, adding people and whatever. This you can have real conversations in. So anyway, I read the book. I picked up the thing. It takes pictures. I picked a picture from my from my apartment, which is a sunset over Manhattan. And it was cool. Anyways, G+Pick, G+Pick.com. I've been noticing even more people I've been seeing on Twitter go to Google Plus and just start to hack around with it. It's like anything. You can't, if you ignore it, then you're going to come back in a year and be like, oh, I can't believe I ignored that whole thing. So that's it. G+Pick. It's free. It takes like 5 minutes, even less. The hard part is finding a picture that looks good and kind of elongated. And that's my pick of the week.
Great.
Even with your negativity.
Even with my negativity.
We are going to battle rap right now. All right, so go to blog.arkusync.com. You can read on all of our blogs and or podcasts as they arrive up there. Follow us on Arkusync, twitter.com/Arkusync, twitter.com/Jason M. Atwood, and twitter.com/JustEdelstein, Mr. Negativity. You can also go to G+ or Google+ and do not follow Justin, but you can do that to us as well as Arkus, as well as on Facebook, facebook.com/Arkusync. And remember to subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, where you'll get, or you can follow any one of those other places. We'll also post the podcast to all those other places, including our Google Plus page, which we have the same picture that we have on both our timeline and on Google Plus. So do that. We will see you next week, where we'll be talking pretty much all Summer 12. And until then, enjoy those cloudy days.